Hello, this is Jenny Dale, your Classical Studies librarian, and this video is going to focus on using the library database JSTOR. So you can get to JSTOR from many different access points. You just want to make sure that you're always going through a link from the UNCG libraries. So from the library homepage, you can always click on databases and either browse to the JSTOR under J, or it's almost always going to be in our popular databases section. So I can click on that here. You can also find it on your course research guide. So for CCI 330, for example, it's on the Finding Scholarly Secondary Sources tab. I'll click JSTOR, and you'll notice that it gets me to the exact same place. So JSTOR is a database, and a database is a searchable collection of information. You probably use databases in your personal life all the time if you watch things like Netflix and Hulu, but the difference with a library database like JSTOR is that we're typically going to be focusing on searchable collections of articles or other text-based sources. So JSTOR is a great place to do research in classical studies, but because it contains millions and millions of articles, we want to make sure that we are using our advanced search options to find the best possible sources. So when I go to JSTOR, the first thing I typically do is click Advanced Search, either here or underneath the basic search box. So I'm going to start with a search here to show you just sort of the breadth and depth of what is in JSTOR. So I'm going to try a search for women or gender. So that or indicates that I'm willing to accept either of those. I don't care if the sources that come back talk about women specifically or if they deal with the concept of gender. Both are fine with me. But then I also want to make sure, I'm using this and here, that they also talk about Greece or Rome. So I'm going to just do a quick search with those two, women or gender, one or the other here, and one or the other here. And I'm going to click Submit Advanced Search. And that brings me back 261,775 search results. I can narrow things down a little bit over here. I can focus on either the academic content, like I might want journals or book chapters, or I can look at some primary source content. They do have some primary source content here. But even using those limits, I'm still getting so many search results. So what I want to do here, I'm going to go back to the advanced search, and I'm going to do my same search again here, women or gender, and Greece or Rome. But I'm going to add another search box, and I am going to say something like, let's try medicine or health. I'm making use of my ors here because I don't know exactly what terminology the most appropriate search results might use. And I'm also going to go ahead at this point and start narrowing down my item type. So I am going to suggest in this case, I'm going to look for articles and books. JSTOR does have some really nice ebooks that include the full text of the book as well as full text chapter by chapter. I can also do some limiting down here where I could potentially limit to classical studies journals. I'm not going to do that at this point because there is a chance that these kinds of concepts could have been discussed in journals in other subject areas. So I'm going to submit advanced search now and just see how much that helps. So that took me down to 75,000 results, which is still quite a bit. At this point, but I might start browsing around here and seeing what looks like it might be useful. Okay. So this might be something that looks interesting. I'm going to look at this. It tells me right here it's a book chapter, so I'm going to click it, Women Doctors in Greece, Rome, and the Byzantine Empire. And I have access here to the PDF. It's from a book called Women Healers and Physicians, Climbing a Long Hill. So I can see right here that this is a book chapter. It tells me the title of the chapter I'm looking at, who wrote that chapter. I have a stable URL. This works well for me right now because I'm off campus. When you're trying to keep track of URLs from JSTOR, I always recommend also making note of the title and the author of the source that you're looking at, just in case something happens to your link and it's not as easy to get back as you want it to. So I am going to click here on download PDF so that I can look at the whole thing and just kind of scroll through. So here's my book chapter, and what I might do at this point, if I find that this chapter does look like it would be useful, it might help me kind of narrow down the terminology that I want to use in my search. So this is interesting. This one actually has a specific section on terminology. It talks about terminology for women who were midwives. Let's see what else we can find here. Women who were doctors, were considered doctors at this time. So this might actually help me come up with some terminology. Let's see if I see anything else. So here it says, for Rome, the normal word for midwife was obstetrix, literally she who stands opposite / who faces. And the normal Latin word for doctor was medicus, and it's had a feminine form of medica. So this might help me narrow things down a little bit. So if I head back over to my original page here and I go back to my search results, I can play around at this point so let's say maybe at this point I decide I want to focus just on Rome. So I'm going to take out Greece or Rome. I'm going to leave women or gender and Rome, and instead of these general terms like medicine or health, I'm going to use those two words, medica or obstetrics. So I still have a pretty large set of search results here at 4,215. Still a lot better than the over 200,000 I had initially, but this would be a point where I could start playing around with some of these filters. I could search within these results. So I might add a term like childbirth to see if that narrows it down. And it did. It took me down to 530. So I'm seeing the original book chapter that got me the terminology here, but let's see what else we're finding. One of the things to be careful about is because JSTOR includes so many sources, articles, books, and book chapters, sometimes it's not going to be exactly what you want. So this one, the risks of childbirth, physicians, finance, and women's deaths in the law courts, all sounds good until you get to this point where it's 17th century Rome. So that might be something where I want to play around with my terms up here, and instead of having just Rome, maybe I want to try ancient Rome. That may not be the term that all of these sources are using, but it might help me at least. It does narrow things down a bit more. So let's take up, that one still comes up though, so we still have to be aware and make sure that we are paying pretty careful attention to the types of sources that we're finding. So I might take a look. This is actually written by the same person as the book chapter I saw above, but this is a journal article just so we can get a sense of what that looks like. So this is from the Classical Quarterly. This is a peer-reviewed journal in classical studies. Again, I have a stable URL as well as this URL with proxy. These are the ones that you want to try to keep, but again, one more sort of tip to make sure that you make note of the author and the title of the source that you're looking at. In this case, it tells me clearly that this is a journal article. And if I start looking through here, I can browse a little bit on this screen. If I like what I'm seeing, I can also click download PDF. Not everything in JSTOR is going to have an abstract if that's something that you might be used to from using other article databases. But typically, if you start reading through the introduction of the source, it gives you more of a sense of what you can find. make one note here. You can, in JSTOR, click this share and you can share it to your email. That's one option for you. But I wanted to point out here that there is a citation function. These are a good starting point, but they're almost never perfect. In this case, I will point out to you, so if I were using this MLA citation, it's got my article author as well as my article title in all caps. And even though that's how it's stylized on the original article itself, that doesn't follow citation conventions. So this would be something where I would have to put this in a more standard capitalization format. So JSTOR is a great resource to know about as you're searching. If you're finding that you're just getting so many sources, which is very common. Again, there's just so much content in here. Please don't be discouraged. Let me know. My email address is jedale2, and I am happy to help you navigate through JSTOR to try to find some of the best options for your research topics. Thanks so much for watching, and please let me know if I can help. Happy research!